In this lesson, I'm going to review the do's and don'ts of MLA formatting. I'm putting it in this form so that it's more convenient to you and so that you'll be able to know them for the exam. I don't have an assignment that goes specifically with this, but you are responsible for being able to know this material on the exam. These are the general formatting points for MLA. You need to double space the text of your paper and use a legible font. The font should be a 12-point font, not bigger, not smaller. In general, Times New Roman's a fine font. You want to make sure that your font is a serif font, not a sans serif font like Arial. Set the margins of your document to 1 inch on all sides. Be forewarned that Microsoft does 1.5 on the outside, so you need to go in and reset it so that they're all 1 inch. Indent the first line of paragraphs about a ½ inch from the left margin. Create a header that numbers all pages consecutively in the upper right-hand corner, 1/2 inch from the top and flush with the right margin. Use italics throughout the text for titles of longer works and only when absolutely necessary for providing emphasis. This is the way that you handle the first page in MLA. You should have your name up front, my name or your professor's name, after that the class, and then the date with your name, your last name, placed beside the page number in the upper right-hand corner. MLA has basically two parts. There's the in-text citation and the works cited, which comes at the end of your essay. I'm going to go through both of those about how you handle in-text citation format and works cited format. MLA follows the author page method of in-text citation. This means that the author's last name and the page number from which the quotation or paraphrase is taken must appear in the text, and then it needs to appear as a complete reference in your works cited page. The author's name may appear either in the sentence itself or in the parenthesis following the quotation or paraphrase, but the page number should always appear in the parenthesis, not in the text of your sentence. So you don't say, on page 14, so-and-so says this. You say, so-and-so says this, parenthesis, page 14. Here's 3 different examples of how to handle it. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a, quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, unquote, parenthesis, 263, end parenthesis, period. You notice that the period comes at the end here. Romantic poetry is characterized by the, quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, unquote. Here, because I didn't put Wordsworth, the author, into my own sentence, I need to put it inside of the parenthesis with the page number. Now, let's say that I'm just paraphrasing. Wordsworth extensively explored the role of emotion in the creative process. I'm paraphrasing it, so I need to place a page number reference. So let's say that you're quoting from more than one work by a particular author. Here you use a shortened title for a particular work inside of the quotation marks. This allows you to distinguish which text I'm pulling from. So I have a couple of different examples here. Citing 2 articles by the same author, I've put Too Soon and Hand-Eye Development, quoting inside of quotations inside of each of these 2 parentheses. If I'm citing 2 books by the same author, I do the same kind of thing. I use abbreviated versions of the titles, but I put those in italics, not in quotation marks. That's the basics for in-text citation format in MLA. Let's turn our attention to how to handle the works cited. Begin your works cited page on a separate page at the end of your research paper. It should have the same 1 inch margins and the last name, page number, header as the rest of the paper. Label the page works cited. Do not italicize the words works cited or put them in quotation marks, and center those words at the top of the page. Double space all citations, but don't skip spaces between entries. Indent the second and subsequent lines of citations 5 spaces so that you create a hanging indent. This allows you to see the author last name. It sort of stands out from the rest of it. List citations alphabetically by author. This is the standard format for a book. You put the author's last name first, comma, then the first name, period. Then the title of the book in italics, period. The place of publication, colon, the publisher, comma, and then finally the year of publication, period. You'll notice that I indent the second two lines here. This is the hanging indent I was talking about. It allows that last name to stick out so that I can, if I'm looking for a last name, go down the page and find it pretty easily. Here's two examples. You can see the last name first, then the first name, the title of the book, this is the complete title, in italics, then period, New York, which is the location, colon, the publisher, who's here Penguin, comma, and then the year that it was published, followed by a period. Now let's say that you're quoting something from an anthology, and this is pretty likely because you're working out of the Norton Introduction to Literature. You still put the last name and then the first name of the author as before, but then you do period, in quotation marks, the title of the essay. This could also be the title of a poem or a short story. You put a period, end quotation marks. Then you want the italicized title of the larger collection, period. Then you need to list the editors. Before you list the editors' names, you put ED. When you're finished with the editors, you put a period. Place of publication, publisher, year, and then something extra, the page range of the entry. Here's an example of citing a poem that's in the Norton Introduction to Literature, the 9th edition, the same edition that I've assigned. This is, what I'm doing is citing William Butler Yeats's Lake Isle of Isenfree, which is one of the poems in it. So I put that information up front, then the anthology's names, 9th edition, I put the editor's names here, E.D., Allison Booth, comma, J. Paul Hunter, comma, and Kelly J. Mays, period. Then the location, the publisher, and the year, and I finish up with the page number. There's an exception to this rule. If I'm quoting multiple short works from a collection or anthology, let's say that I'm pulling from a couple different poems in the Norton Introduction to Literature, what I do is I give the Norton Introduction to Literature its own entry. I put the first editor's last name first, and then I list the rest as they appear. So it's Booth Allison, then J. Paul Hunter, and Kelly Mays. They are EDS, which means they're editors, and I list the Norton Introduction to Literature. Then I list each of the poems separately. So you have Frost, Robert, The Road Not Taken, Booth, Hunter, and Mays. That's telling my reader to go back and check out that entry on Booth, Hunter, and Mays, and they'll know where it is. Then I put the page references. I can do that for every entry from this anthology. It can trip people up sometimes when they don't know whether to use italics or quotation marks for different kinds of work. Italics are used primarily to punctuate the titles of full-length works that are published separately. There are also a couple of specialized uses for italics with novels. So it can be used for novels, a play that's published separately, long poem like Paradise Lost that takes its own book, an anthology like the one that we're reading out of, a newspaper, or a film. I use quotation marks to punctuate titles of shorter works and parts of other works, titles of the works that aren't published separately. So the short story, Why I Live at the P.O., that's not published separately. It's either published in a magazine, a journal, or in an anthology, maybe in a short story collection. Same with short poems. These aren't the same thing as the epic poems, like Paradise Lost, Idea of Order at Key West. That takes several pages, but you don't publish it separately. An essay, like A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again, that's going to appear in a collection or a magazine. Newspaper article, here I'm just pulling U.S. stocks resume slide after rally from a recent headline from the New York Times. A newspaper article you put in quotations. So generally the short things end up in quotations. Again, there's no assignment for this lesson. Just be aware of this information for the exam. Good luck.